So, Bob, if if it's evolutionary, the democracy, then how do you describe the evolution of judiciary in India? Because it was much stronger some time back, and
Well,
it is falling apart in the most recent decade.
Yeah, as we've discussed before on this program, the Indian judiciary is probably the weakest part of its democracy. And without a strong judiciary, people have no place to turn. It's not just another part of the democracy, the machinery of democracy. Without a strong judiciary, without a strong and a functioning court system, there is no place where people can go for their grievances. And so it's very, very dangerous what can happen in a democracy if the judiciary isn't maintained as efficient, functioning, and independent. And that is a problem in India today. Just the backlog alone.
Okay, George, let me address, how do you evaluate Ukraine's democracy? I mean, the president's status as a disgraced election rigger was temporary, and he became prime minister again, and the job he held before the revolution. Is it still going through evolution, as you say?
No, that's actually the result of a democratic process. The individual in question was a prime minister, corrupt prime minister serving under a corrupt president. The president at the time, we're talking 2004, participated in setting up fraudulent elections for which this prime minister was running for president. And that's when the people came out on the street and did not accept the results of a stolen election. They conveyed that message. Fortunately, there was a judicial system, rudimentary though it was. The Supreme Court in that country decided that it was time to assert the rule of law. And they overturned the election.
Compared to the length of democracy, you mean the judiciary has gone far ahead?
Yes.
In Ukraine?
In Ukraine. Now, it doesn't mean that the full judiciary system is standing on its feet. It's not. It's highly corrupted. There are a lot of judges that are literally bought. But the recognition that at some point you choose your judges on the basis of their capabilities and their qualities to elevate them to the next higher level, that's how Ukraine wound up over 10, 12 years with a Supreme Court of selected individuals rather than bought individuals. They saved the country. The other aspect of it was when the president thought he might bypass the process and call on troops, because we've got to deal with that element of it, force. When he thought he would rely on troops to maintain his power and continuity of government, the military said, hell no. The military had been reformed over those 10, 12 years, thanks very much to the United States in our engagement with the military and NATO, reforming the military, redefining their role in a democracy as serving the country and not the ruler. So because of those two factors, that president stepped down, and the corrupt vice president stood for election as prime minister in the last go-round of parliamentary elections last March. That's how he came back into power as prime minister. But he won legitimately. Like it or not, he won legitimately. So we in the United States accept that, and the people of Ukraine have accepted it. They're not happy with it, but they accepted the outcome because they've accepted the notion of the rule of law, and that's what we're talking about.
Chuck, how do you explain the ongoing power struggle between the will of the people and the political leaders in the third world countries that have just evolved into democracy?
Well, I hate to bring up a new topic, but the concept of national sovereignty for me seems to be at the heart of this, in that national sovereignty is what the United Nations is based on, and it's essentially the right of any nation to do anything it wants to anyone it wants, anytime it wants. And then there's the will and the needs of the people, which are often quite different than that, where you have a country that is able to commit genocide at will and not be held accountable. We're working on the premise that democracy is actually a good thing. And I think Bob pointed out one of the problems of that is, unless you have a strong judiciary, but my favorite quote from Thomas Jefferson is, democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding what to have for lunch. Freedom is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. And democracy really can be a tyranny of the masses, and that's where the idea of maybe the Second Amendment is, they have the right to bear arms, kind of can contest that. But democracy is not all that much of a positive thing unless you talk about the rule of law. If it's within the context of the rule of law where we get to participate, but there has to be other characteristics as well. The protection of human rights, the idea of justice. If you have all those together, then it's maybe a good thing. But democracy by itself is not a good thing.
That's your take, Holly.
Well, I wanted to go back to something Bob had said and Dr. Ansari was saying. Bob said that, well, in the US we have the rule of law and you'll have total anarchy if people go out on the streets. As Chuck just said, democracy is not going to work effectively, or at least have the kind of benign results we want it to have, if you don't have a strong judiciary and a good working sense of human rights. What Dr. Ansari, I think, was talking about is the fact that in so many of these countries, including India, we've got a democratic process, but not all the rest that goes with it to make it function properly, with the result that the only way people can in fact be heard is possibly to go out on the streets, even if it means a mob. Mm-hmm. When you have a bad ruler, when you have injustice in the highest office, you're going to have injustice being felt right down to the smallest human being, and they're going to come out and or they should come out and make it obvious, because then something might be done. But if you sit and take it lying down, you're just accepting what your rulers are going to do to you.